You're listening to Open for Discussion, where, man, y'all probably shouldn't have said that. It tends to happen. Let's start the show.
7:15 East Music Room.
Welcome to Open for Discussion, where any and everything is on the table to be discussed. I'm your host, Albert, and as always, my brothers from another mother, they in here with me. I got my boy Cleek the Geek.
What do you do?
I got my boy Brian, a.k.a. Diddy Rowe.
Shalom.
It never fails, man. Never fails. And, of course, my boy G-Dub.
Yo.
First of all, we want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to come into your space and enjoy us. Oh, my gosh.
Why you stopping, bro?
Oh, man.
All right, that was the intro. And the first topic of the show is...
I want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity. Oh, my gosh. That is not even what I wrote down.
So,
We want to say thank you for giving us a try.
Well, bro, opportunity was better, bro.
do. Thank you for being a friend.
Bump that, man. I ain't even giving her that, man. Well, fellas, man, I just want to say I've been super excited about the sports of this year. And when I say this year, I mean going all the way back to 2017, as well as some of the entertainment that's been coming out with the new movies and things that have been coming, that's been really, I mean, I don't even know how to explain what's been happening in the movie world, especially with the Marvel Cinema Universe. What is it? The MCU?
MCU.
Yeah, man. They are dominating when it comes to the books. But going back to my initial statement, being in Central Florida, we experienced something that we haven't got a chance to experience. I think all of us at one point in time are UCF alumni. And so it was pretty, yeah, man. I formerly played there. I know you guys went to school there.
When we played, it was awesome.
Oh, my gosh. What year you play, man?
Hold on. I got to get it back to you.
Yeah, man. But definitely it's been an exciting year. You got the NBA playoffs. The NFL was great this year, with Philadelphia coming out of nowhere and just dominating, man. Especially with the Nick Foles story. You got your rookie star quarterback goes down, and then Nick Foles on his second stint comes in and takes him to a Super Bowl. That's pretty amazing, man. And and like I said, right now we have the NBA playoffs. Got to get your. Let me get your choice.
What's up?
Who you going with?
Whoa. It's early.
That's right. So we can come back to this and find out if you change.
See, okay, I'm going to let John answer first. I have a whole theory I have to break down. And it's not long.
It sounds stupid.
Go ahead. We don't want this guy. Well, we have a bitter person here that he supports certain teams that sometimes we forget they're in the league and the association, but whenever those teams inevitably get knocked out, he hates on the teams that are actually good. But go ahead, say what you got to say, my friend. I don't know where you're going with this, but just go ahead. Go ahead, man. What you got?
3 of the 4 people in this room have a team.
All right, here we go.
They actually stand by a team, even though they're trash, right? They stand by a team through thick and thin. Then there's another person, right, who figures, you know what? When my team's losing, I'm just gonna jump ship and go to another team.
Who you talking about, man?
I don't know who could that be. Al, what's your team, Al?
Orlando Magic.
All right, you got the Magic. Okay,
Magic. Man.
give all their talent away. Let's go Oladipo. Hey, B, what about you? What's your team?
For starters, I don't have a team. I don't own a franchise. I don't pledge allegiance to a particular sports organization because they don't pledge allegiance to myself. But I support the local Orlando Magic.
I support the local
Come
Orlando
on, man.
Magic.
Get on board.
Look at that. Look at that.
What a thought. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No allegiance
So-
to a team. Okay. Yeah.
No,
'Cause I don't.
no, you didn't hear what he said. He said, "I support the local Orlando Magic." Is what he said. So, and just so everybody is clear on the record, you can look at anything about me. You know, I'm a Miami fan through and through. Every single sports organization, every single time for the past 32 years. 32 years. Now, let's go. Hey, Cleet, who's your team?
Oh boy! No, first off, when you have to think about it, and then you did to think about it with your mouth open.
Hesitation.
Guys, no, it's not. Let's change the narrative here, okay?
Wayne, ask the question again.
All right, so Cleveland doesn't have a team. Al has a team. He supports the Magic. Brian has a team. He supports the Magic. I have a team. I support the Miami Heat.
Let me interject. I don't have a team. Again, I pledge no allegiance to a sports franchise.
He supports
as
the
they
local
do not
Magic.
support me. They don't pledge allegiance to myself. And also, let me go on the record, I do not support the National Football League either over the injustice perpetrated on one Colin Kaepernick. So let's just be forthright with that. I don't want anybody to assume. Thank you.
And
All right, great. So Brian supports the Orlando Magic. He doesn't have a team. He has a team, but he doesn't own a team.
No, I don't have a team. Let's not change what I just stated.
For the context of this conversation, we root for specific teams, right?
Correct.
And
Yes.
you've been rooting for the Orlando Magic for how long?
Yeah, I've rooted for the Magic since as long as I could remember.
How about you, Al?
since their inception.
Great. And I've been a Miami Heat fan for not 32 years because the Heat have been around for about 2 decades. So at least 20 plus years. So Cleeton, how long have you been what was your team again?
Bro,
You've had ample time to think about it. You still got nothing.
This is
The Warriors, man. Come
the Warriors are your team. How long have you been a Warriors fan?
Bro, I've been wait. Let's
how
just go
relevant
back
is
to
that
this
though?
shit.
Does it matter?
It does. You know why you asking me that, man?
Better
All
you
that
the rock.
matters is that's my team. All right.
Can you answer the question?
All right. See, I got to give you some backstory. See, I've been a 49ers fan since 92. I've been in the Bay since 92.
we
So
just
by
changed
default,
sports.
I've been a Golden State fan
Okay.
since
Okay.
92.
Hey, Cleeton, can you do me a favor? Can you name 3 players on the roster for the San Francisco 49ers? 3 players.
Everyone knows I don't really follow football like that.
Okay.
That was so dumb. No, you just said you've been a fan of the 49ers
Right.
your whole
92.
From a
since
distance.
92.
From a distance.
What are we doing here?
Oh man.
I am so glad that finally everyone is allowing, is being open to hearing these comments because it's asinine to me that Cleeton
Watch your mouth,
Gums does not have a sports team, but he just changes.
Who needs a sports team?
Right.
That's
But-
whack.
and-
Okay, what
and
rule?
even
You
in the-
traditionalist. What rule
Even in the
says that you
same-
need a team?
I agree with Cleet.
What rule
That's a
says?
very
What
valid
rule
point.
says you need a team to be a fan?
Very valid
even-
point.
I'm a LeBron James fan. Okay.
But you're a Golden State fan. Wait a second, I'm confused. Can we
Very
clear the
confused
air?
right now.
Can we clear the air, please? LeBron James does not play for the Golden State Warriors yet, right?
No, he does
He
not.
doesn't. He doesn't.
It's not a yet. He's not going
Yeah.
over there. Yeah.
Great. But you're a Golden State fan. So how does that work?
Present him with the same question you just asked him.
I'm not a team.
So Golden State is not your team, so you're saying you just lied a couple of minutes ago? Is that right? Great.
Why are we talking about this? What are we starting with? Where are we going with this topic, man? Huh?
I'll ask
Listen,
about
buddy.
sports.
Wayne asked you, what team do you support? You got to be able to answer the tough questions, man. Get a man what he want.
I plead the fifth.
And here we go.
Let's just move on.
The fifth is pleaded. That is that. All right, so
Too much going on right now.
So predictions is what you asked for.
Predictions is what
Thank you. All right. Thank you. That's where we were heading. Why?
Okay. So
First of all,
Predictions. All right. So
East and West first.
So starting with East. All right. So here's my. I'm gonna try to sum it up really quick. LeBron James is trying to control the narrative. I really believe that he coerced with Kyrie Irving to get him over to Boston so that he can set up this situation to leave Cleveland. He knew that if he left Cleveland again, it would ruin his legacy that he's trying to build now. So he's been arranging a whole situation all season to get it to a point where he's playing his heart out and Cleveland doesn't move forward. Now he has a clear way out of the door saying, listen, I've been your savior, Cleveland, and I can't do any more for you, so I need to go somewhere else to do it. So I think that because of this narrative that he's trying to control, he's going to lose to either Toronto or Philly or Boston. It's going to be one of those three that's going to take him out. Then that would set him up to get traded or, to sign, should I say, with either the Spurs or Philly or one of those. But that's another topic. So what's my predictions? For the East, I think it's going to be Toronto or Philly. Actually, that was my prediction until yesterday. Boston is something special. I watched that entire game. There's something special. So I don't even know about Philly right now because Boston, we got to see how they go and they play in Philly. But my predictions was Philly or Toronto out of the East. And, of course, Houston looked like they were going to do something, but Golden State is just back to their just dominant selves. So, obviously, I can't bet against those guys. So, they're coming out the West again. So, it's going to be interesting to see because LeBron doesn't want to tarnish his legacy. So, I don't think he's going to go to the finals again to lose. So, he's trying to get out of there, trying to get in a better situation. I don't think he can draw people to want to live in Cleveland and play with them. So that his situation is he's going to try to go somewhere else again and try to create another super team. That's my thoughts.
All right, though.
Golden State coming out the West, and the road to the Eastern Finals Championship runs through Cleveland. So Cleveland, Golden State.
all right. Every other team is playing for second place. All right, let's just be clear. Golden State Warriors are the best team in basketball and have been for the past 4 to 5 years, despite
Sound
the fact
like a
that
fan to me.
they lost to Cleveland a couple years ago.
Did he talk about the Heat that way?
It's funny.
Sorry. But he's a Heat fan, right? So conveniently in love with
I
Golden
have
State.
admiration for Golden State, but I am a Miami Heat fan.
Right. You
through
make
and
your own
through.
rules. Yeah.
Miami, no, I do not make my own rules. I never claimed to be a Golden State fan.
Right.
I
You
claim to be.
you just are.
I claim to be a Miami Heat fan. Again,
Okay, all right. This
Ladies and
guy
gentlemen.
roots for Steph Curry more than he roots for the Heat.
ladies and gentlemen,
Anyway, but I'm the one.
the theory of LeBron James controlling the narrative comes from a person who's now trying to control the narrative. So you can see where that theory comes from. So,
From the same camp.
moving on from that, in the East, I am sticking with my original pick. I said that if
The Heat?
I stated clearly and on the record, if Philadelphia beat Miami, then I was taking Philadelphia to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I am sticking by that. Philadelphia, Golden State in 5.
All right. I got Cleveland coming out the East. Cleet, that's your narrative. We're gonna let you stick with that narrative. I simply see a man on a mission.
He
Dude,
definitely
I mean,
won.
the dude has been balling out of control from round 1, round 2. I don't know what it is about Cleveland and Toronto, but
Oh my gosh!
it's
mental, man. It's mental.
It has to be. So I have Cleveland coming out of the East. I have Golden State coming out of the West. Right now, I would say Golden State would win, but I would have them winning in 6.
What?
Against
Against who?
this Cleveland team?
Oh my goodness!
If you got if this Cleveland and that Kevin Love that scored 31 points shows up, there's not many teams that can play with them.
Except for the team that can score at 4 people on their squad can score 30 points.
Klay Thompson is not going to score. I've
Wait,
said
you
this
mean
2
Klay
years
Thompson?
in a row.
Klay Thompson, that's leading all scorers right now in the game that they're playing right now, and who's led them in the first round in scoring too?
Yeah.
That Klay Thompson?
And that
Okay.
Klay Thompson that every single year disappears in the playoffs.
He's playing in the playoffs right now. He's not.
He's playing
disappeared.
good right now, but he's going to disappear.
Not at all, man. Not. We're talking about the Klay Thompson who on their back. On the back of Klay Thompson, they beat the
Raise his voice,
OKC,
guys.
the Oklahoma City Thunder because this dude went off in the fourth quarter. That Klay Thompson that doesn't show up in the playoffs.
I understand.
That's a lot of passion, man. This kind of sounds like your team. Who am
He's
I?
got a point. You got a point, Cleet. Sounds like a
Just
fan.
observation. Just
Sounds like a
observation.
Very passionate.
I stated that I am an admirer.
Right, admire.
Of
Right,
the Golden State
right.
Warriors.
Cool.
So
sure.
I can admonish the person that I and the team in which
saying
I'm
you love
admiring.
that team.
I do, but I'm not a fan. I'm not going to bandwagon. I'm not going to bandwagon jump and say that this is my team. My team is unequivocally the Miami Heat. If any
So
two
you like
teams
one
are-
of them dudes that just got the chick. You do everything with a chick where you never claim her, but that's your chick. Everybody knows that's your
That's
chick.
your girl.
That's your girl, bro.
But no, man,
no,
we just
no.
we just talking, we just messing around.
that would be considered a side chick in this analogy because my main would be the Miami Heat.
But you do
Okay?
acknowledge that there's a relationship.
There is an admiration. Okay, I didn't say anything otherwise.
But you just said side chick. You don't admire a side chick. She's your chick. You laid claim. You laid possession to her.
My
Right.
goodness.
But I'm the delirious
have-
one. At
I
least
have
I
no-
admit that I don't have a team that I like. I follow
you
players.
did admit
Cleet,
that. You
what
did
team
admit
signed
that.
you to a contract?
Not now.
Thank you.
Not according
nada.
to Cleveland Gums, and I have written documentation that has.
Oh, yeah,
said
we have seen
that the Cleveland Cavaliers has signed him to a contract, and his contract expires at the end of this year, in which he can decide to go to whatever team he so desires. So again,
That is
Cleet
true.
is a fan. He is a fan free agent, boy.
every year
No, he's
for
a
every
fan
game.
free agent all year long. Every game is game by game, dog. Free agent.
Set day contracts.
That's freedom. Who wants to stay on a losing bandwagon? It's a choice. Who chooses to be a loser?
I guess the
Man.
three of us have chosen to be losers here.
No, I support him. I'm not a fan. I'll support him. But yeah, I'm with you. Be free.
That is
I did sign a
hilarious,
few
man.
contracts.
What?
My bad.
A few contracts in the same year. In the same year with different teams.
Clause. I always have a clause. I'll tell you about the clause every time.
That is true.
That is true, man. With all of that being said, man, I know y'all boys have been movie crazy, man. So you know what I mean, like what's been standing out to you?
What
you know,
kind
so
of
far?
question is that?
Hey, man.
We don't need to talk about any other movies.
Yeah.
It's like, Brian, did you see it yet? Please tell me Merlani made you go see it.
What's that?
Infinity War?
No, I never go see movies opening weekend. So, I'll always see it week 2, week 3.
You seen any of the Avengers though?
Oh yeah, no, Avengers is a great is a great movie series, man. Yeah, I love
man.
the Avengers.
Man,
What y'all think of it, man? What'd you think of?
Well, we can't talk about it because this man hasn't seen it.
Bro, I'm not.
I said,
I
what
could
did you
care
think
less.
of it? I don't want you to go into details.
I mean, I thought it, man. It
Well,
was,
no, there's one detail we have to go into, right? One detail that I've been talking about for the past week or so, and that's in the beginning of the movie when we realized Thanos was a bad dude when he put them hands to Hulk.
oh, this boy,
Put them hands straight, just made Hulk just
this boy,
just a
Hulk
little boy.
had scenes in the rest of the movie, and he didn't even want to do them. They had to cut him out. 'Cause he was like, no,
No,
Hulk didn't want none.
y'all know that person that get beat up and doesn't want to come to school the next day. That's
Yo.
that's exactly who
Yeah.
Hulk was in this movie.
No, but it was amazing, man. I mean, he instantly became, just in the first opening scene, the baddest villain of the MCU. And it's just because he was so, he was so good at being a villain that at some parts you actually had compassion for him. Like, you kind of understood what he wanted, even though it was evil in a sense. It was what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily evil, but it was like it had disregard for lives. You know what I mean? His overall mission had disregard for innocent lives. His drive for it like made you have compassion for him, and he just has so much poise with the way that he dominated everybody. Like, you're talking about the Avengers, you're talking about these people who have, like, you know, their terror for everybody else, and he just brushed over them like they were nobody, dude. Just a beast, man. It was awesome.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, staying on the entertainment section, we definitely got to talk about, well, Y'all Boy. Because I never really was major supporter. I've never bought any of his products. You know, I love his music.
That ain't
But
my
of course,
boy,
you know,
dog.
I'm talking about Mr. Kanye.
Yeah, that ain't my
And
boy. I mean,
the statement of slavery was a choice.
that dude, and then he was like, there wasn't that thing for 400 years. Sound like a choice to me. It's like, it's just the arrogance of, or let me back up off arrogance, but it's the separation of time that you're so far removed from it that you're insensitive to it.
Right.
You're so far removed from it that you then get into arrogance, and you know you're insensitive to everybody who's fought and died and you know went through all this stuff just so you could be in front of that mic. You know, for you to say that was just so, it was so irresponsible, and it was just, you know, it shows you how far off this guy is, man. You know, from College Dropout, I was a fan of College Dropout, and you know, there was a pivotal point in his life where he lost his mom, and you could just see the spiraling down. Yeah.
See, I want to hear something crazy, right? Because of course I'm going to have the left field thought process on things. Mm-hmm. Y'all remember? I don't know if you saw it yet, but Black Panther, right? It was a movie. There's a line in the movie that said, "To give me death," because like my ancestors, they knew that death was better than bondage, right? Mm-hmm. So we as a people, as a culture, threw that statement through the roof. It was like, oh my God, that was so powerful. Absolutely, yes, 100%. Kanye comes in and says slavery was a choice, and that ties in to what the line was from Black Panther, because it was death or it was bondage. It was slavery, right? That by definition is a choice
For people
who came over here on the boats.
who came. What about people who were born into it?
Well, he didn't. I don't think Kanye got specific to say. Well,
But that's where the insensitivity comes into play.
And don't get me wrong. So this is where I think Kanye. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Kanye fan. I think Kanye is crazy, and I think he's less crazy because I think this is all just a marketing ploy for his album that's coming out in June. Because the more people that's talking about Kanye in the news, the more people are going to want to hear his
go
next
listen
music,
to his music. Right.
So I don't think that this is by accident by any chance. But some of the things that he was saying have some merit to it, not truth, said merit. So it's a fact that can be ambiguous, because the people that did come over here who were born into slavery at some point, I went and did some research on Nat Turner, right? Who led the slave rebellion, one of the slave rebellions, right? And it's that thought process that we can overpower them as opposed to staying in this same vein of. And that, again, by definition, by the very definition of what he is saying, is a choice. Now, did we decide inherently when we were in Africa, I'm going to come over on this slave ship and work for free? No. Were we systematically oppressed so that we could not think for ourselves? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, within that frame, there is a moral compass that each person possesses, and you know wrong from right, and you know something that feels good and something that doesn't feel good, and you decide to stay. It's just like a person who's in a domestic abuse situation, right? So when someone's being domestically abused, what do we tell them to do? Leave. You're in a toxic relationship. But for whatever reason, that person stays. And we say, you made a dumb choice. Why are you being stupid? But that person is being demonstratively possessed in that, or oppressed in that scenario, which prevents them with having the will to leave. Now, can they make the choice? Yes, but they need the will to follow through with that choice. So is it, by definition, was it a choice? I believe it was. However, it is difficult to make It is difficult to put that choice on a group of people, one person, 50 people, 100,000 people, to make that choice when you've been taught that you do not have one to begin with.
First off, I respect your opinion just like I respect Kanye's. I try never to devalue someone's voice. I think we as a people, we embrace. I just look at the National Negro Anthem. Look at the lyrics of it. Lift every voice. Mm-hmm. So we value voices. So, I definitely won't assail Kanye's character because I think that's one thing that societally we rush and do. We're quick to call someone, a name and, quick to try and discredit someone when they speak something that we disagree with. I vehemently disagree with Kanye. I vehemently disagree that the notion that slavery was a choice. To say that you have a choice of whether to remain in slavery or to commit suicide, is that a choice?
By definition, by very definition, not inherently, not morally,
let's to even say that gives credence to the fact that we had a choice in being in that situation. So don't tell me I have a choice in being a slave or not when I never asked to be in that situation. I was brought there forcefully. So don't put me in a situation that says be a slave or die. So leave me on my native sand. Do not tell me I have a choice to either remain enslaved or commit suicide. That's not a choice. And to justify Kanye saying that is just as wrong as him saying it. You cannot justify putting someone in that position. If I make, and this is graphic, so you might have to turn your ears. If you take a kid and you go put them in a room full of grown men and say you gonna sleep with him or him, you choose. It's not a choice. That's forced. That's egregious. And at no point can you justify saying that's a choice. Not a choice. No way. No justification, definition. And that's the thing. We like to think so abstractly, like this is an exact. No, it's not. Look at the circumstances. Look at it in its totality. Man, we didn't even live in that era to really encompass what slavery was day to day. But one thing about us as a people, we had an eternal hope. What wouldn't allow those to commit suicide? We had a hope that it wouldn't be like this always. That was the faith that we had. To commit suicide and say, well, I don't want to be in bondage because I don't want to live like this. Many did. Many people jumped off those ships.
Yeah.
Many people did. And that doesn't mean that they had any less hope than others. Unfortunately, they just did not want to be put in this situation to have to choose between slavery or death. It's no choice. It's not a choice. It was irresponsible of Kanye to say that. I would have, loved to hear more context, even though no matter what context he gave wouldn't have justified that statement. But again, I would have loved to hear context because I heard that same analogy. And in that respect, it's true. Everybody, oh, yeah, it's better. I'd rather, go ahead and throw me in the ocean because it's better for me to die than to be in bondage. That's a good statement. But put in that situation, right, there was a reason that we remained enslaved. That was not a choice that we made, period. Right. Period. You look at injustice right now in 2018. Why hasn't there been an insurrection? Is it by choice? Yeah. Because the consequences are death. Insurrect against the American government if you want to. Mm-hmm. And tell me it's a choice. Man, get out.
So I have a question. In that light, our definition of our independence coming here, seceding from England, right? When the persecution and the penalty was death. In the same vein, is that did we not choose to be an independent country?
Oh, we came to America out of free will. We came to, and when I say we, I would say the Europeans who came from Great Britain. They came here as a choice. They were seeking religious freedoms, and Britain actually sent a lot of criminals. They sent exiles. Look, y'all can't be here. Y'all got criminal. Go to America. So let's not think that only, we were only seeking this great abyss of opportunity. No, they were sending people they didn't want in Britain anymore. No, y'all go to America. We don't want you here. But still, there was a choice that the many had, look, we're going to seek new resources. We're going to seek better economic opportunity. We are leaving by choice. We can stay in England, clearly, and we can go. But even going there, we have freedom.
It's going to a free situation.
And the I was honestly only bringing that up because of the insurrection statement that you made. Why hasn't there been an insurrection? Because there is everyone in this life, you can go and try to find yourself a piece of land somewhere to call it free, right? To say look at Eric Snowden, right? He chose to revolt against the American government, and he got to go live wherever he wants to live, right? That is inherently his decision to be able to do that. So I am not insensitive to believe that we decided to come here because we were in Africa minding our own business. They wanted a free slave. They wanted a free trade where labor force where they didn't have to pay for anything. So it was like, let's take these people who are uncivilized, they don't know no better, and we'll take them and make our labor force, like you mentioned before.
Uncivilized by their standards.
Correct.
Right. Okay. This group of people who are not civilized by their standards, and bring them over because we need people to work for us. Right. The trip over, people decided, I don't want to do that. That's not something that I want to do. And we have a phrase for it. We say it's when you're between a rock and a hard place, right? There is no choice. There is no option other than like I'm stuck, right? So that's that's where you are. It's a very definition of being in between something that how did I get here and how do I get out, right? So you have a decision to make on how you get out. Many slaves. Harriet Tubman, everybody knows the quote. I freed 1,000 people. Could have freed 1,000 more if they would have known they were slaves. So the people that are born into this situation were, and this goes back to my original point, were systematically oppressed. They didn't even understand where they were. So if we're talking about groups of people, and he's talking about slavery, we're talking about two groups of people. We're talking about the people who initially came over. We're talking about the people who were born. Some of the people who were born here didn't even realize the situation that they were in was in an oppressed situation. And those people who don't know that there's not another option they don't have anything to compare it to. But anyone who has anything to compare it to, whether that be death or whether that be to continue to do what I am doing right now with the eternal hope that this will get better, again, by definition, is a choice. Now, this is not a fair choice. This is not a choice that you bestowed upon yourself. You were put in a scenario, and any person put in any uncomfortable scenario, even the little boy that you mentioned, that's not a fair choice. It's not fair to him, but if the person gave him one or two, by the very definition of the word, and it's the only thing I'm saying. I don't agree with Kanye was saying. I don't agree with the comment because I think the context was completely off. That at one point all of us were just going to come together and rebel. No, I think that there are so many other factors. Even the rebellion that this dude, that Nat Turner did, he experienced a ridiculous death because of it. Him and all the people who participated with it. So it's not as if there was this a huge advantage to rebelling and to standing up to the point that one may say, no, that's not a choice for me. That's not an option because I don't want to die being hung and being flayed in front of however many people. So the notion then goes, okay, well, what do you decide to do? Do I decide to die or do I decide to live? That's the very basis of choice.
To say that blacks had a choice absolves whites from any responsibility in slavery.
They have all the responsibility.
No, blacks, you had a choice. You didn't have to be slaves.
You could have died. You could have died.
You didn't have to be a slave.
Because he's essentially saying all y'all should have jumped in the boat. I mean,
you didn't have to be a slave.
All y'all could have died.
Look, we just came. We took you from your lands. You didn't have to come. No. And then when you got here, you didn't have to be a slave. You could have at any moment committed suicide.
Or revolted is what he was also kind of insinuating. It was like, oh, y'all could have got together and...
Do y'all realize the amount, the I mean, the viciousness that they retaliated with slaves who tried to rebel.
Exactly.
We're
That's my
still
point.
we're
That's why
still
the comment-
dealing with it in 2018.
This is why the comment is so.
No, that's not a choice, man.
It's
That comment was destructive, and like I said, anybody that sides with it in any respect, it's wrong. Because anytime you make an inflammatory comment like that without context, that is so very irresponsible, and it's unacceptable. Period.
Yeah.
Period. I can't justify it.
Yeah, man. Well, I actually want to get you guys raw emotions and answers about.
I was like, where you going with this?
Okay. We're going to go ahead and strike out the 35-minute mark of this recording. Woo, boy. How do we just start this over?
No, we just keep talking. We can cut it off. Go ahead.
Oh man, go ahead, get them raw, Bert.
I said I actually want to get you guys raw emotional feel of when you saw the situation happen at Starbucks. What was your immediate reaction to that? And I just want y'all to go around the table and kind of focus on that situation and just tell me what were your immediate feelings when you saw it, especially living in 2018, as we've been discussing about, the previous situations, with slavery, with the rebellion, or being in bondage and all of those things. What was your first reaction when you saw it?
So I talked about this in one of our previous episodes about people being in the situation we're in this country because of selfishness. And I think the first reaction was like I was just really proud to see a older white male genuinely concerned about the well-beings of these black males, these black dudes. And then you hear the woman in the background just as concerned. So initially, before I had all the information, I was just like, wow, man, there's a lot of stuff that's not going right, but that's an example of like people caring about other people, not seeing color and really just wanting, equality, just fairness, man. Like, why are you messing with these dudes? So that was my first initial impression. And I was just like, it gave me, I always have hope because my hope is in Christ, but it gave me, insight that there's people that are making strides to not be, caught up in all of the stuff that media wants you to be caught up in. So
cool, man. You gotta be.
When I saw it initially, I just wasn't surprised. Like, I was more so surprised at some of the responses of people's indignation, like this was something new. Like, can't believe they weren't doing anything and they got arrested. This has been happening.
Right.
So, it's kind of, it was very revealing to see that some people were unaware that this was still happening.
Right.
So that
is you think that is on purpose, that they have blocked that reality out of their life, or do you think it's ignorance?
No, I think it's on a lot of levels. I think you certainly can segment what happens in society, and I think that's because there's a scapegoat mentality that we always look for. In today's current climate, which is perpetuated by our president, people of black and brown, they're the reason for the ills in society, according to our current president. So when you see, when a lot of people who even supported him see that, okay, wait a minute, these guys weren't doing anything and they were, arrested. Maybe all black people aren't bad, So, I think, I think that's a part of it. But, unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. And again, some of the reactions that people were they were genuine. Like, I can't believe this is really happening. Yeah, whereas I was like, I ain't surprised.
Right. This is normal.
Yeah.
What you got, Dub?
Well, as usual, I'm on the opposite side. I was aghast. at the situation.
That it took the cops that long to get there. Yeah. We knew it.
There you go.
We knew it.
That
funny.
That this was happening to these dudes, and the initial thought was, am I missing something? Like, I have to be missing something. There was something that had to take place.
There's a reason why this is going on.
Right, because the in the context of the video, because it is a short video, we are in the spin age, and fake news gets, tweeted out real quick. It could be. So I sat and I just watched the video for about maybe like 5 times in a row, just trying to listen to all the comments and stuff that was going on, and then trying to get context, and just I had to reserve my initial feelings. But when I first heard it, I was shocked, because Cleet and I go to Starbucks, not frequently, but every now and again we'll go and we'll work at Starbucks, and just to imagine going into Starbucks at 4:35 and then the cops are called at 4:37. I mean, you didn't even have a chance to do anything wrong. Don't get me wrong. You could have done something wrong, but you didn't even get the opportunity. You could have been in there with malintent, but you didn't even get the opportunity to follow through on your malintentions. So that was extremely, extremely bothersome to me. And the reason why is not that it's because it's 2018. I think that there is the same amount of racism, prejudice, oppression happens now than it happens now than did 50 years ago, right? It's the same amount. It's being filmed. Like Will Smith had a statement. He was like, racism isn't getting worse. It's getting filmed. Like we would have never heard about this thing without social media that happened in Pennsylvania. It would have been a local story, right? But now we see it, and now even the white people are starting to see it because of social media, and it's like, whoa. And especially the dude that was coming to meet with them was a white dude. So he's like, the dude that I'm coming to meet with, I know they didn't do nothing. They just got here.
They were trying to meet with that guy that was talking?
Dude that was talking.
I think
he was a real estate investor.
Real estate, that's what it was.
So, and they were about to sign this big old real estate deal. And he's like, what are you talking about? I know these guys. We come in here to do a business deal because Starbucks encourages this whole thing. So, but to answer the initial question, now I was very surprised, even more so. Now I haven't done all the research in the story. I truly in my heart believe that there is some issue with, and this is just my personal belief, there's an issue with the manager. That the manager was involved in something that made him think, because they're in Philadelphia, right? It's not like there's a shortage of black people around. Right, so it's not like you're not used to seeing black people. And these dudes didn't look any. We got dudes in South Florida that look way more hood than these cats.
They didn't look goonish.
These are college grads. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even if you had these internal prejudices and you were fearful, you would give them an opportunity to do something that makes you like an interaction of some sort. But they came in and off jump. No, you can't go to the bathroom. It's for paying customers only. And then you call 911. So that leads me to believe that there's something more that the manager or whoever made the phone call thought that they were, and this is just my thought process, is a complete assumption 100%, is that they reckon they looked like someone that they were afraid of, or they gotten into something and thought that these two were representatives or, coming to see them, so to speak. Now, I understand that's a far jump, but people do lead crazy lives. But I think, to me, that is a shorter jump than just thinking 2 minutes? 2 minutes. 2 minutes to call 911. To think that your life is in danger after a 2-minute interaction in a public place.
Yeah.
That to me is don't get me wrong. Is there prejudice? Is there racism? Can I size someone up? Can someone size me up by the color of my skin and think that I am a deplorable individual because of what I look like? But for them, for you to call 911 is a fear for your life. And for you to think that within 2 minutes is an assessment of a fearful life situation with no weapons involved, then they ask you to use the bathroom again.
Or it could be looked at as a privilege.
to be in the restaurant?
No, to call 911 and know you're going to get favorable results. It's knowing that perfect scenario. Here's some black guys that are causing trouble. I know that I'm going to get a certain response from the police department to get them out of there.
Right.
It's a privilege you have as a person of that race.
And so the person that works at Starbucks never sees a black person ever, and
Wasn't
never.
the first time that he did this, or this was done from that store.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's some of the story. This wasn't the first time that the police were called for people in the store, black people in the store. That particular location.
From the same person.
I don't know if it's the same person. I don't know that much.
Doesn't have to be the same person. It's a culture. It's an environment. This is equitable to pre-desegregation. Blacks walked in a store in the South. You get the cops called on you. You see that sign right there? It says whites only. They didn't have to justify you. They didn't have to feel threatened. You could come in there. You can come in there with a suit on. Wearing a $1.09. With your daughter. It didn't matter. You weren't supposed to be there, and that's what this is indicative of. You're not welcome here. You're not supposed to be here, and for that reason, here you go. I'm calling the cops.
And I think it's expanded beyond blacks too. I think anyone that represents this culture of the hip hop culture, they get that same experience. Because I could go find a story right now of Hispanics that's probably felt the same situation because of, it's the hoodie, it's the J's, it's the whole get up. You represent a culture that we saw on TV. We only seen this image of this gangster rap, and we still think that's what you're about. So as soon as you walk in, why are you in Starbucks? Wait, what do you want here? Mm-hmm. You come in, you ask to use the bathroom right away. Oh, look at you. You're up to no good.
So just overall prejudice.
It's prejudice, right?
What about you, Bert?
I was extremely disappointed.
Just that it was happening, or like where's your disappointment at?
I was disappointed that it happened. Yeah. It wasn't about where it happened. It wasn't about how it happened. I was more disappointed of why it happened. Yeah. And I think overall, the entire situation was handled, wrong. I feel like once the cops were called, which I completely disagree with that in the forefront, but once the cops were called, I feel like there was an obligation for the cops to treat those men with respect, regardless of what they thought the situation was. They committed no crime. Yeah. Everyone was inside of the building saying that, hey, these guys have done nothing. I've seen cops break up fights at clubs and tell those guys to go home. Mm-hmm. So they could have pulled those men outside, talked to them, and said, be on your way.
They did.
Yeah.
And they asked them to leave because of this order had come. They were like, listen, we called the cops on you. Yeah. Not saying that you did anything wrong, but we're asking you to leave. They said no.
Yeah, they did ask them that.
And
no, I understand that point.
And that's when they have to, at that point, after you're being asked to leave, they have to remove you. I mean, that's just the letter of the law. You want that for anybody.
Right.
And I'm not saying
it's a private business, yeah. So
right.
Somebody asks you
but once you remove them from the store.
No, once they said they weren't going to leave, they're trespassing and they have to be arrested.
Okay.
So that is that. It wasn't a favorable situation for the men, and I'm not saying they made the wrong decision. They made the decision they felt right. Like, look, we didn't do nothing. We're gonna stay here.
Right.
And by doing that, the cops had to arrest them, and that's the law, and it should be that way.
And they can't arrest you and then let you out like outside. They got to take you to the station.
Let me just interject. A cop has discretion in when they arrest somebody.
Absolutely.
Yes. Somebody can come up here, somebody can go to a house, shoot the whole house up, and he did it. Cop can say, okay, well, we're going to investigate a little bit further because we don't know he did it. They can take him into custody as a suspect, but then at the same time, they have the discretion to say, well, I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
They do have discretion. They didn't have to.
That's what my point is.
They did not have to.
With that. Because like I said, I've been in clubs back in the days in college, and cops have come in, and broke up a fight. And taking a guy out in handcuffs, put him in the back of the car, talk to that guy, and let him go. And say, listen, I don't want you, I don't want you to go in, go into jail for just being dumb. They talk to the guy, let the guy go, and everything was good from that point. So, like you said, they have the discretion to arrest who they want.
Yeah, I think in this regard, like, because I saw some of the interviews from the police side of it, and that they always get a bad rep. So, obviously there was some black police officer involved in this as well. So here's the scenario. So you have someone, you ask them to leave, they don't want to leave. Now you got to get them to walk out the building.
Right.
So as a police officer to de-escalate it, you got to put them in handcuffs, because if you just try to say, hey, man, come on, I'm going to make you walk out. Now, they're not detained. Anything can escalate at any second. So at that point, protocol, you gotta put them in cuffs just to get them out the building. Now, as far as what happened, I don't know the rest. I don't know if they ever got to the station. I don't know what happened, but
They got arrested, and then once they got there, Starbucks decided not to press charges, and then they were released.
So they were actually sitting in the cell.
They had to go. I mean, once they take you to the police department, they got to process you, because these people are saying they called 3 times, or they asked the dudes 3 times to leave. They said no 3 times. So at that point, you are trespassing, which is breaking the law.
Just crazy, man.
Arrest you.
You could be issued a citation. Now, okay, and I'm not to interject, but I get you guys' point. The cops were justified legally for arresting.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Yeah,
I just had to get that.
And the only reason why I believe any of this stuff is because the chief of police in Philadelphia, or this district, he's a black dude. And he's not like just looking at his stuff and reading about his reputation. He's very aware of racial bias, but he also has to protect the letter of the law in order to continue to make change the way he wants to make change. So to be able to do something like this is like, look, I have to support my officer. We're not talking about, shooting somebody in the back here. It's a completely different atmosphere and different decision to make. And I know it's tough. I honestly was hoping for a very large settlement between the dudes and Starbucks, which hasn't come out yet. They settled with the city of Philadelphia for $1 and $200,000 commitment to youth programs.
Right.
But they have not settled with Starbucks, which I'm excited to see. Well, the number's not going to be disclosed, but I'm excited to see. The CEO of Starbucks had already said he's going to personally mentor these dudes, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a great start. How much are you coming with the mentorship? Well,
Right.
But anyways.
Well, moving on from there, I need y'all to take a moment. I'll explain my situation first. So during that time, I need y'all to kind of think about something that happened in your life. And basically, what I'm saying is that I need you to think about a situation in your life where you encountered a form of prejudice, racism, or bigotry, whatever word that fits your situation, and how did it affect you, whether good or bad? So I'll tell you my situation, which was actually kind of weird. I remember I was driving home from UCF. I was going home. I was living at the time. I wasn't living there, but I was going to see my mom in Palm Bay. So I'm going down Colonial, headed towards Bithlow, right before you get to 520. And this was when it was a single lane. This is when it was a two lane highway. They built it up big time now. But I get to, I'm driving down and I see this car come up behind me full speed. And it's I remember it like it was yesterday, man. It's a Ford Ranger. And it had big mud tires on it. So it came up behind me. And I'm driving I think I'm driving an Oldsmobile 88. So I'm not moving fast at all. But I'm in the right lane. So I'm like, okay. So the car comes up on me. Bright lights flash. And so I get over to the left lane. So I'm like, well, this person is in a hurry. So they're trying to go. So they switch over right behind me. And just, they're getting close. So I brake check them. And so I move back over to the right lane. And lo and behold, they jump right back in the right lane behind me. So we finally get to the last stoplight before you get on 520 at the time. And the guy swerves up and he drives up on the, almost on the grass on the sidewalk. And he's just screaming, I need y'all to, cover your ears. because I'm going to say something that may be offensive to someone. But he gets out of his truck. Well, he doesn't get out of his truck. He rolls his window down, and he's just screaming at the top of his lungs. You know, hey, nigger, get out of the car, nigger. Follow me to Buffalo. I'll beat your A, nigger. And so I'm just sitting there, and to be honest with you, I just started laughing. Because I'm like, this cannot be happening right now. This is, I mean, I've done nothing. I'm driving in an 88, and I'm doing like 45. So I'm like, did I cut this guy off? Did I do something wrong? But what I realized is that was just pure hate for my color, because he never talked to me. I never shook his hand. We never made eye contact. He just saw that my skin tone was a different skin tone than his, and he instantly was angry that I was even on the street. And that goes into the mindset of of what we previously spoke about with Martin Luther King, and trying to get all of the previous leaders that have fought for desegregation, and all of these things. And so it made me realize that being a black man in America, I don't want to say it this way, but it made me feel like my skin tone will never be okay with the masses in America. And it's not because I've done something wrong. It's not because I've treated people wrong. It's simply because my skin tone was black. And that was the reason that situation happened. Now, did it make me look at, white people in a different way? Absolutely not. Because, I grew up in a very diverse area. When I was younger, I lived in mostly black areas, low income, high poverty. But as I moved up to, junior high and high school, we moved to an area, it was very diverse. And so I got to see the good side of America, where people that have a different skin tone from you, they brought you in as family. I had friends that would sleep over, and they were a different color than me. So it didn't change me in that way to where I started looking at people differently, but it did make me take a step back and realize that what I grew up with is not reality. It can be reality, but it's not reality. And that's my situation.
Okay, well, I'll go next. I have quite a few to choose from. I don't think any of us here have a shortage of instances. The one particularly that stands out is I was in 7th grade, and there was a particular young lady. She was white, and we had several classes together. We always just kind of had a contentious relationship for some reason. I think in her heart she really liked me. I probably liked her too. So when you're that age, instead of just hooking up, dating or whatever, we just kind of had some contentions.
Right.
So we were walking back from lunch one day, and one of my best friends was standing with me. She was ahead of us, a couple feet ahead, maybe 8-9 feet. He was the problem, like the problem maker. So he had some gum. He took his gum out, threw it at her. Boom, gum got in her hair. And I don't know if things have changed, but back then, there wasn't any getting it out. She had to cut her hair, eventually, of course, the next day. But she kind of reached in the back of her head as she felt the gum hit, and she went, and she turned around, and she looked me right in the eyes. And, immediately, of course, she went and told the teachers. I get sent to the principal's office. I get suspended. I didn't, quote unquote, rat out my buddy, because at that moment, I had, it was like a real awakening. I was like, y'all didn't even ask me if I did it. They never asked me if I did it. They believed her word, and I got suspended from school. Now, when I got home, I told my parents I didn't do it, but I was actually able to explain it. I said, I didn't do it. I said, Spray did it. Well, my boy, he did it. He was like, why didn't you tell? Because, I thought I'm going to whoop him. Like, why didn't you tell them? I said, they never even asked. They never even asked. So at that moment, it just kind of showed me some, the perception that is kind of is levied on situations that a black male in America could potentially be in, specifically when it deals with a white, and more specifically a white female. So,
Cool,
7th grade.
Cool.
I've got two stories. Well, thanks so many. I think I've told this one already, but
When you spoke at the Republican National Convention, I remember.
I won't give the conventional one that I normally give. I'll give this one. I had a girl that I liked in 10th grade. She was a white girl. I had black girls all up until then, and I didn't delve into.
Some of your best friends were black.
I have black friends.
Lots of black friends. Name them.
So I asked for her number, got her number, and then she told me to only call her at a certain time. So I was like, all right, that's cool. My dad raised me to be respectful. If you tell me to call you at a certain time, I'll call you at a certain time. But one day, for whatever reason, I called her outside of the time that she was supposed to answer the phone, and her mom answered the phone. And then her mom, I asked, I said, hello, Mrs. Such and Such. I'd like to speak with whatever this girl's name was. My name is Wayne. And she says, hold on. She says, the girl's name that is on the phone. I was like, did she just call me? And I'm like, this girl, it was a Jewish girl.
Wait, I didn't get it. So what happened?
She said, she called the girl's name. Let's say the girl's name was Mary. She's like, Mary, that N-word is on the phone.
Oh my God.
That is so disrespectful.
Whoa, bro. That's the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard in my life, man.
I'm like,
Oh, man.
Lord of mercy.
and I'm like, and then she gets on the phone, and the girl's crying, and she was like, listen, I'm so sorry. I just got in a fight with my mom about you, and because I told her that you're black, and they blew up. So I literally called right after a heated argument about me, and it was interesting. So look, get this right. So from that point on, I had a specific stigma around all white people. They were Jewish, right? I didn't expect that.
People, yeah.
So in sophomore year, I was driving back from Miami, and the car next to me, this blue pickup truck, started coming over in my lane. I-95. There's 2 lanes, right? Mm-hmm. He starts coming over my lane. Next thing you know, I'm in the shoulder, right? So to try to recover off the shoulder, I turn, but I turned too hard to get back in, and now I'm spinning on I-95. Next thing you know, I am horizontal in the vertical I-95, and I am looking this way, and a white Dodge Ram 1500 is blazing right at me. I think it's going to just knock me. I'm done at that point. So something in me said, "Thank God for the Holy Spirit. Put your foot on the accelerator." Absolutely. So I press the accelerator and I drive off the road. He veers off. He doesn't hit me. Craziest thing. So I turn to look because he's now in the median, and he's just they're getting themselves together in the car. And I look on the back of the Dodge Ram, and y'all know people put emblems and stuff on the back of the pickup truck. It's a Confederate flag. And I'm just like, here we go. And I'm on I-95 somewhere between that flea market that's on I-95 as you're going down south. I don't even know what the name
Melbourne,
of it is.
Melbourne,
around there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just like, Lord, what is going to come of this? And these people come, they're running towards me. I'm like, whoa! I got nobody with me. I think I had a phone. The phone was on the floor or something. And he gets to me. He was like, oh my God. He was like, are you okay? Are you? And then his wife comes over. He's like, baby, are you all right? oh my, I can't stand the bleep, 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 that bleep, bleep. I'm going to chase him down and go bleep, bleep, bleep. I'm going to get my shotgun that's in my car right now and go shoot. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm okay. They were like, great, no, listen, we're going to sit here with you. We'll call an ambulance and we'll make sure you're okay. And that like blew my mind. Like, because from that 10th grade call up until this point, I'm thinking, you got a Confederate flag.
Right.
I'm going to end up, around the corner somewhere. But these people are some of the nicest people, which is why I have some of my stigmas like I do today, because a lot of our belief system is shaped by our experiences, right? So that experience taught me a lot. I was prejudiced against them, and they broke the stereotype in front of me. Now, I'm not saying that's true for everybody, right? Because there's certain people that, if they would have found me there, I would have been went out. You know what I'm saying? But that just showed me, and those are just conflicting stories just on either end. Kind of goes back to Cleet's comment earlier about how happy he was to see a white guy defending those black dudes in Starbucks. It's like there is a group, right? There is a group, but that group isn't everyone. But that one group is loud, and that they are ostentatious, and they are sitting in high seats in our current democratic system. So I can understand, but those are my two stories.
What's your NRA number? What's your member number?
I'm about to say that's when you joined the party.
I'm a registered independent.
Nah, man.
Democrat slave
I'll be honest with you, fellas. I don't. I mean, I've been I've been in a group where we were profiled. You know what I mean? But
followed around the store.
Yeah, or we got pulled over because we supposedly they were looking for the color of our car, that kind of thing.
Fit the description.
Yeah, but
that phrase right there, boy.
Fit the description. Yeah. So, but directly to towards me, I can't say definitively that I've experienced it like that.
That's cool, man. You ain't gotta have one. You know what I mean? That's good. That
Yeah.
means you haven't had the experience, that traumatic type of situation.
So to make sure I say this correctly. I've experienced it, but I've been let's say, okay, it's a group of us at a table,
right?
And they look at the whole group, but not to me specifically.
You haven't had a solo experience,
right?
That's good. Good work, man. And it's really tough when you go through it, man. But you just, just keep living. Yeah. You can't really focus on it because just like Dub's situation, man, you really can't create a blanket stereotype for everyone because everyone is not the same.
No way.
So my next question is for you guys, man. Not in a spiritual way, not any Powerball numbers or anything like that. If you had the opportunity to go back and tell your teenage self, graduating high school, and give yourself some advice, what do you think you would say to yourself, knowing what you know now?
Never take out a student loan.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of, dude. I was like, go to the Air Force, dude. I had to pass the test. I was ready to go. I think, but some parts of me is like, not parts of me, all of me is like, obviously I wouldn't redo it because then I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't be living the lifestyle I'm living now. However, if it was just like I didn't know that was down the line, whatever, just making wise decision, I would have went and set myself up for jumping in the Air Force and getting and using that opportunity. And like Brian said, just not taking out loans. Like you just get yourself in situations. At the time, it sounds so good, and it's like, you tell yourself everything. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and when you're feeling the effects of it, you're like, dang, I would have did that differently. So
it's funny because I'm always the opposite. I would tell myself to make sure you still take out student loans that you take out, but don't spend it on the stuff that you spent it on. Because what I would do, and this is me going back right now. Take $10,000 and put it in a CD and don't touch it till you graduate. Because by the time that CD is finished, because I worked all the way through college, so I could have paid the $10 a month or $15 a month that it would have cost in interest. And I already did the research on this, so I thought about this question quite extensively at some point in my college career. I would have took the money because what do investors do? They don't invest their own money all the time. They build businesses based on someone else's money. And even my mom at one point was telling me in high school, she was like, listen, get out a student loan and pay off your credit card because that debt is cheaper than your credit card debt. So I'm like, so I did that a few times. If I had to, I would maximize the system of student loans. I would still get my education, but I would have found a way to make sure that when I was done, every single thing that I took out was paid for already and I had a surplus. Because I didn't come into college with, my mom didn't give me a savings to go into college with, and I would have wanted to go to college still, even now. And I know if I tried to convince myself not to go to college and to go do some type of trade school, I would have laughed in my face because I needed to get out of Fort Lauderdale as soon as possible. You know what I'm saying? So I would have still, look, go take that first check that you get and that you went to the mall and you spent $8,500 at the mall. Take that and just, this real life story, take that and invest it. And just let it sit there. Don't touch it. You can go spend whatever you want to spend with the rest. Because that $10,000 sitting in the CD, I think it would have been worth around 60 to 70 grand by the time I was in. By the time I would have graduated. I saw this. I had this one chart that I was looking at. I can give exact numbers next time, but
I need that chart. I didn't know CDs would yield that great of a return. But so you're saying that your investment would have yielded a greater return than your debt that you incurred, if you even incurred any, as a result of going to a university.
Correct. I would have came out positive after I graduated. Because by that time, I mean, I wish you would ask me what I would have did to my ninth grade self. In my ninth grade self, I would have had myself applying for scholarships every single day. I had a close friend who applied for scholarships every day, starting from junior year on. Did not pay a dime for college, not one penny. And I was lazy, and I wanted to chill with my friends during high school, or during lunch while he was applying for scholarships. But once I got past that point, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to school now. No, go ahead and take out this loan, invest it, and make your money back. And I'm gonna find that chart, and I'll send it to you.
So, if that was his process, would he not have benefited from just bypassing the thought process of not having to go in debt, as opposed to making an investment, going in debt, and just coming out positive? I don't know if
it wasn't the same person. So the dude who applied for scholarships, he didn't do anything with the 10,000. The person that did the 10,000, somebody different.
Cool. Well, what I would tell myself is it's a little different for me because I was on full scholarship.
Yes.
But what I would say to myself is, the day I graduated, I should have started a business. Because,
high school?
No. Well, when I graduated college.
So you asking us what we said to our 18-year-old?
Just saying, when you're fresh out of high school, or whatever.
Yeah, bro, you told us high school, right?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I got off my own subject.
I was making sure I said
man.
the right thing. I want to make sure I was listening.
No, but like I said, it's different for me because I with the full scholarship, and I wasn't able to work.
Oh, that's another topic, Doc.
No, it's so stringent, and the all of the tangibles that come along with the scholarship. When you're on an athletic scholarship, you can't work more than 1,000. I think you can't work, or you can't make more than $1,000 a year.
So they cap you on what you can make.
Oh yeah, they cap you on everything, because then it exceeds, what you're allowed to get.
But that makes so much money.
Yeah, but it was funny that the first topic, the first comment that Brian said was, don't incur student loans. Don't get student loans, which brings us to our topic of the day that I wanted to throw around with you guys, and that's basically college universities versus trade school, where it's a trade or even an AA degree, where you're not going to incur so much debt. And right now, as of the class of the graduates of 2017, the average amount of debt that a student comes out with is $39,400. And that's before you've gotten a job. That's before you've purchased a home. That's before you've, got you a new car. In most cases, it's before you've gotten married. You've already started life basically $40,000 in the hole versus going to a trade school that's high in demand right now, where there's a few jobs that I'm going to run through with you guys, a little bit later in this segment. And I just want y'all, because it's kind of mind blowing to see the median salary of some of these jobs that you didn't have to go in debt, to acquire. So, basically what I'm saying is, how do you guys feel about it? What's your thought process on, because all of us have younger kids right now that eventually we're going to get to that state where they're going to come to us and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or I would like to do that. And we, as the men of the house, we have to be able to give them, a conscious answer and not base it off of what we experienced.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna throw that around. What y'all thoughts on that?
Oh, I hit a Republican first.
Come on, Republican Dub.
I'm not a Republican, so I can't. I can't answer the question.
What you got, Cleet? Dub doesn't want to answer.
I mean, so let's so let me make, because I thought you were about to say something after you said you was going to throw out a few options. So you're going to wait for us to say what we think and then
Yeah. I want y'all to just give your thoughts on it. The difference between college and trade schools. Which one do you think is actually better? For a lack of terms, which one do you think is actually better and more beneficial?
So my thoughts on it is, unless you're in some of the top schools in the country, you kind of get this standard education that, that doesn't really help you in the workforce. You get book knowledge. And I didn't want to say only Ivy League schools, because I think there's some other schools that aren't Ivy League that have programs and internships and scenarios where you can get that real world experience. I think, for me, there's no real answer to this question. There's only the scenario of the individual. So I think, just going to get a trade isn't always the thing. And once again, just going to college and getting a degree, it doesn't guarantee you anything.
Right.
I think the focus on college is mainly to go work for someone else. It's not entrepreneurially driven. I don't even know if that's a word, but I made it.
Hey, it sounds good.
So it's not driven. It's not designed for entrepreneurs. So it's designed to train you up, learning your skill set, so that you could go work for a larger corporation or work for somebody else, some other entity. A trade, in a sense, does the same thing, and it makes you skill focused on one particular area. I think we kind of have a pseudo world we're in now with technology, where there's it's been so for the last 10 years. There's a rise in information. I actually work for an information company where there's individuals who did the work of learning the skill set, and they're training you. They're not a college, not a trade school. They're individuals who using technology to train you on a skill set that can very quickly make you money that rivals any of those other industries. So I think that's kind of what I'm interested in. I think, and they're over the last 10 to 15 years, they've been organizing where now they have certifications and for certification for marketing, certification for Google this, and so I'm saying all that to say, traditionally, how we approach this thing about college, we're in a different day and age. You don't need to do that to be successful. That's for sure. So there was a little period where it was like, okay, I don't need to go to college to be successful. Let me just be let me go be an electrician or something like that and just have like a nice stable thing. But even those jobs, they aren't as stable as they were anymore. And, it's not guaranteed, like it was for our parents. So like I said, you weigh it on the individual situation. And I think being focused on those talents that the kid has, right? Focusing on the talents that they have and looking at what resources are best. Is it better to go to college to get to, like, for instance, like if you want to be a doctor or lawyer, you still got to go through that traditional route.
Oh, yeah. You got to go
You know what I mean?
way.
Yeah, but if there's other areas you want to get into, you don't need to go to college for that. And it's about, like you said, as a parent, as a leader in your home, is about getting them that information so they can make a sound decision.
Yeah, it's it's less about the institution and more about the skill, right? So whatever skill a person develops, college or trade school is to hone and develop a skill or a talent or a set of talents in order to matriculate into the workforce. So in order to make sure that your child is set up for success, like Cleet says, you got to look at what they're good at. Try to help identify things. One of the main issues with college and why it costs so much is because kids spend the first 2 to 3 years trying to find themselves, and right, and that's just a bunch of wasted time and wasted money. I mean, it's great that you got the opportunity to go and discover what you like, but why not expose them to that when they're 14, 15, and 16, as opposed to waiting until 18, 19, and 20, and now you're $45,000 in debt and you're 3. Yeah. Right. So, and Cleet mentioned, so some of those other institutions are actually designed to find what you're good at early, and then you go down that track. You don't go to Harvard saying, what am I going to major in? You know exactly what you're going to major in when the time that you get there and you go down that track. So, and trade school can limit you to that one trade. And if there's not a market for that trade that's going to be there in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, you need to end up going back to school to learn something different anyway. So I think what it's really about is for the parents to identify what the child is good at and find out how this can matriculate into a workforce that is building, when I say workforce, I mean, what is the industry going to be like? Because you don't have to work for someone. You can build your own business, but you need to build your business for a climate that's going to be there. The people who used to make rotary phones are no longer in business unless they change and started making cell phones, right? So we need to make sure as parents to identify what is this, what does the industry say this is going to be in a few years, making sure you learn that skill. I listened to a message by a pastor named Bishop Ben a few years ago, and he was telling us that he was during the crash of the economic market. His church was in Detroit, so he started telling all his people to go to school and learning how to be nurses, go into the medical field because that's getting ready to boom. The people that listened profited. The people that didn't lost their jobs and they were out of it. They were unemployed for months and months and months. So it's just really about, like I said, understanding what the times are telling you and finding what that is early before you have to spend a ton of money on these different opportunities that you have.
Yeah, going down similar threads. I think we're all in agreement to the end that it's not an either or. I think both institutions have value. I personally think that the system, the fundamental way in which we envision education, specifically higher education, needs to be overhauled. Mm-hmm. I'm an advocate of apprenticeship and internship programs prior to investing in a college education. I heard Mark Cuban, he's also an advocate of going back to how education once was. You did an apprenticeship with a law firm. You did an apprenticeship with an electrician. If in the event you showed a proclivity, you showed a desire to continue in that track, then for those tracks that required further education, you went and pursued your education at that time, not going to college to try to figure out what you want to do, amassing a huge amount of debt, which and a lot of times almost forces you to continue in that track because of the obligatory. Exactly. I've invested so much. I can't just now all of a sudden go and do something else. Yeah. I got to graduate. I got to get a job. This debt that I have is collecting interest. So the system in itself has to be overhauled. We really need to reimagine and rethink the educational track starting in junior high and at latest senior high. Again, going back to an apprenticeship program as parents. it's important that we try and identify the best route that we believe that our kids should take. I look at, my siblings and I, all of us went to college. But I know a lot of historically people who were sent to vocational schools, originally it was disproportionately, they were African Americans, because it was at that time deemed that higher education was not suited for African Americans. Then as time transpired, vocational programs were typically for people with disciplinary issues, people who couldn't, function, quote unquote, in a class environment. They had disciplinary, hey, go let them learn a trade. So then it was restricted for people, like I said, who had disciplinary issues. So they were, they were herded there. And again, that was an error, because looking at my own siblings, my oldest brother, who, he was the quote unquote, the bad child. He ended up getting his doctorate degree. So had he been a product of a vocational system, it wouldn't have allowed him to take that track. And of all my siblings, he's the most, he has the most intellect naturally. Like, stuff came easiest to him. My oldest sister, she had the greatest work ethic. So, we each could identify, what skills, traits, how our learning styles were. But again, put in the wrong situation, and I'm just using him as a case example, he would have been put in a vocational program when he had the highest intellect of us all. So, again, so we have to look at the educational system as a whole. I believe there is huge value in vocational programs. I believe that there's huge benefit in the higher academia scene as well. Unfortunately, higher academia has become big businesses for banks, which is why universities continue to get larger and larger, which is why our university base now is at its highest that it's been. It's a big business. Lending is a big business. And again, institutions aren't attempting to curtail that. They're not enacting measures to make this affordable for all, which is, it's unfortunate. But to come out of school, and I look at my current job assignment, you don't need a college degree to do what I'm doing. It's required, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
Period. And, and I look, okay, what did I learn in school that actually helped me do this specific job effectively? Not really nothing. Now, there are things that higher academia gives me a certain advantage of. And one of them, like a tech writing class that I had to take. It allowed me to be able to formulate how to write something technically to make it easier to read. But that was specifically the design of the class, called tech writing. This is how you write something technical. It was specifically geared at instruction manuals, how to process, certain procedural, so procedural writings. So that helps me in that capacity. But again, that doesn't help me in this job specifically. Right. You don't have to take that class to be successful in my current assignment. So again, it's got to be reimagined. I think both have value. What I love most about the educational platform is it exposed me to a different train of thought. It exposed me to think critically, to think in a way that I would not have had I not gone there. And I think that's one of its purposes. So they both have value. But again, it's got to be reimagined.
Cool, man. Quickly, I want to just run through this, man, just to kind of see if you guys can guess. Now, mind you, all of these jobs that I'm about to run through this list real quick, none of them require a 4-year degree. The majority of them only require secondary, which is, a vocational school or an apprenticeship. So the first one, man, what do you think an elevator repairer or installer makes a year? This is the median. Which means that after they put all the scores together, the income together, this is what the majority of them are making.
I say 60,000.
Yeah, I was about to say 60, 64.
94.
$77,000.
Okay.
A radiation therapist.
Radiation?
So it's trade school? Yeah, I guess it would be because you don't have to go through that.
Dealing with radiation, gotta be at least 60, 70. Okay.
I'm going to say 55.
66.
Close.
Close enough, man. You're getting there. A geological petroleum technician. That name sounds amazing.
Petroleum is gas.
Yeah, they just getting gas out the ground.
Now this one requires an associate. Typically requires an associate degree. So basically a 2-year.
50, 60.
Gas is big business. I'm going to go around 80, 85.
And these people are on the road all the time, so they have to compensate for the fact that they have to do that. So I'm going to go with Brian, probably between 85, 95.
Y'all are really high. It's actually 61.
Okay.
Now, the two tech brothers, y'all should be on point with this. This doesn't require it doesn't really require a degree. Web developer.
Well, it depends. It's
We're
too,
just going with the median.
but yeah, it's too arbitrary. I mean, web developer, just like straight out coding.
It could be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Mad
like-
low, but I'll go with 52.
I'll start at 75.
Man, I applied for a coding job that starting at 65, but you had to have a 4-year degree.
This one is 57,662.
This is like a average web developer. You got somebody that just like went to coding class on the weekend.
A respiratory therapist.
That's a 2-year degree. I got family members who are respiratory therapists.
Associate's degree.
What do respiratory therapists do? Is that just like, I know it's breathing, but like they help you get back to
Basically, I think they. What would I say? They, help kids with asthma. Do they diagnose that kind of stuff?
No, they don't really diagnose.
Yeah,
they
they
perform
can't.
treatments.
Right.
They do assessments specifically geared toward patients with respiratory issues. So they
Okay.
have that specialty.
I think that has to be pretty expensive because if you get that wrong, people die, right?
I'd say 45.
Okay. 65?
I said 60, 70.
51.
51.
Yeah, I mean it's not horrible. And the last one I'm gonna say is an electrician. And this doesn't require anything. We got people in the hood that do electrical work all the time.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah. Common electrician, 55, 60.
45.
50,000, man. You know what I'm saying? So looking at it overall is, like you were saying before, you got to kind of weigh it. Each situation is different because, a lot of us would have been super excited, to jump out into a $60,000, $70,000 job.
Yeah.
With the debt that was incurred in college, where these people they have no debt. And they're jumping right out into these jobs making $77,000, $68,000 a year. And then the biggest thing that I see from it is that you have the opportunity. I think trade school or vocational schools, they develop more entrepreneurs because you find yourself in these businesses and then you find yourself saying, hey, I could do this for myself. And not saying that they're going to be as successful, but
I'd like to see that stat. Only because I think that people going to trade school, like the ones you just named, respiratory therapists, the petroleum one. Those aren't jobs that people build businesses on.
like a plumber,
More
an
like
electrician,
Right, but even
you have
electricians,
your hair salons.
you're going to have electricians who are going to go and work for Del Air. You know what I'm saying? Before they go in and they start
That's
their own
HVAC.
thing. No, Del Air does. Okay, well, yeah, maybe that, and they do security. But so the people they'll be proficient in those electricity skills. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to start their own thing.
Right,
I just want to see the comparison between the two because I think entrepreneurs are just a different breed of people, whether they went to college or whether they didn't go to college.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree with what Cleet said earlier. College didn't prepare me to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't their objective. I didn't, they didn't say the focus is on building you as an entrepreneur. We're going to equip me. Their
job.
objective exactly was to equip me that when I finish, I can go work for somebody because I have a necessary skill set.
Yeah.
And so, entrepreneurship, I don't think it's discriminate.
Yeah.
Very true,
Across
man.
the
Very
board.
true. Well, fellas, come to the end again, man. I want to say thank you. Another great show. Another one in the books. So from me, who is Al, my boy Cleet the Geek, my boy Brian, a.k.a. Diddy Roll.
Man, stop saying my government name on there.
We ain't
I'm
gonna
gonna
tell
fade
you to
you.
stop saying
I'm gonna fade this too.
And my boy G Dub, man. We out.